Hi, Miss Denise. Welcome to this panel.
Hi, Amora.
Hope you're
Thank
doing
you
all
for
right.
having me.
You are so welcome. Hope you're doing all right today.
I am. I'm great, actually, Amora. I'm good. How
Okay.
you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty
That's
good.
good.
Yes. So I know you and I was talking earlier, and you told me that you was ready to share your story as to why you ended up supporting Briana as hard as you've been doing it. So
Yes,
yeah, so let's talk
yes.
about it, man. Let's talk about it. Did you follow Briana before this?
I did. I started following Briana in 2021. Well, yeah, I started following Briana in 2021 when her
Okay.
and Robert was together, and I could see things in their relationship that made me kind of uneasy. It was recognizable to me because I had witnessed it in the life of my daughter. Okay,
Okay.
and Brianna, she's around Brianna's age, and so yeah, that's what kind of drew me to what made me pay attention to Brianna was some of the behaviors I saw, the mannerisms I saw in her that I watched in my daughter,
Mhm.
um, who I've actually experienced a tragedy with.
Is it your only child?
No, I have four daughters.
Oh, you have 4
Four
girls.
beautiful daughters, Amora.
Oh my
Yes.
god, 4 girls. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
much fun. So you
Yeah.
said that you something happened and it ended in tragedy. Did I just hear that?
Yeah. Yeah, Amora. So my daughter, and let me just give you a little background on her personality. She was sort of like me, funny, she was a go-getter. She was a jack all trades like me. I mean, when they were young, I taught them a lot of things. So um, she could do pretty much everything. She went to school for hair. She could cook. She was a sous chef. So yeah, um, she was a good girl. Um,
Mhm.
she got into a relationship with someone that of course I was dead set against the relationship because he was a lot older than she was. But once they
How
become
much
adults,
you
you
say a
can't.
lot older. I'm sorry. When you say a lot older, but how much you mean by a
Oh,
lot?
she was in her 20s. He was in his 40s when they met.
Oh, that is a lot older. That is
Yeah,
a lot older.
yeah.
Okay.
He was in his 40s when they met.
Mhm.
So, I of course forbid the relationship. I didn't like it. I didn't want her in a relationship with her, but I couldn't stop it. She was an adult.
Mhm.
And I mean, he took care of her. When she got into a relationship with him, she had my granddaughter, my beautiful granddaughter, was was born. I guess she was about 2 or 3 or something like that when they met. She was really young, maybe not even two.
Mhm.
So she got into a relationship with this man. She met him on the job. She worked as a security officer at a school, and he was, I guess, the maintenance guy there. They
Mhm.
met, they hooked up, they began seeing each other, and against what I would want for her, um, they continued despite the fact that I told her I didn't think it was a good idea. Now, no,
Okay.
she's this young, beautiful girl, and he's this older guy. I didn't like him for the fact that he had been married. He had already established his life. I wanted better for her. But of course, it just didn't work out that way. I guess they decided to hook up, and they did.
Mhm.
Um, he eventually got to the point where they moved in together. He was a good provider for her, to be honest with you. He took good care of my granddaughter with her. Um, so, it seemed to be, an okay relationship until I started seeing different signs in her, sort of like I kind of could identify in Brianna's relationship with Robert. Um, she kind of was nervous around him. She was drawn back. She kind of isolated herself from her family. And he was an alcoholic. So I could tell there was a fear in her whenever he, would drink, um, just different things like that. And so I started to pay closer attention to that and kind of try to talk her away from the relationship, which it still didn't work. Um, and then the
Did she
relationship,
now,
go
just
ahead.
one second. Now, did she tell you that he was an alcoholic, or is that something that you witnessed on your own?
I witnessed it. I
Okay, got
witnessed it. I
it.
witnessed it. I was a part of her life, so of course I would be at their house or whatever, and to see her, to see my granddaughter. We would cook together, things like that. So yeah, I was a part of her life.
Mhm,
And I kind of just, I mean, there, I couldn't stop the relationship, so I had
mhm.
to be. I didn't want to not be in her life because of that. So I mean, they started getting into fights. They started arguing. First, it was arguing, and the arguments got worse, and then it became physical with her.
Okay.
Every time he would drink, pretty much, or when he was drinking.
Mhm,
Um, and he was controlling because he did so much for her, because he was taking care of her. He was controlling her.
mhm,
He paid all the bills. He did everything. He paid for a car. He did everything that she didn't want for anything. In return or in exchange for that, there was that control. Like, he didn't want her to work. He didn't want her to do anything. So
mhm.
when it became physical, she let me know it was physical. She would leave. She would go back, leave, go back. He would kick her out of the house. She would leave, and then he would beg her to come back. She would go back, and then at some point he got a restraining order against her. He got a restraining order against her, but would beg her to come back. And every time
You
they
got a
got into an
restraining
argument,
order against her?
yeah, yeah,
This is the second time I've heard that
yeah, he
before.
got a restraining order against her. And I mean, she would fight back. She was definitely a fighter. She would fight back, but
Mhm,
yeah, he would get a restraining order against. He got a restraining order against her.
okay,
So she would, and then he would beg her to come back. And of course she would go back, because we
mm,
know how it is in those relationships. She would go
right,
back, and then when she went back, they would go through the fighting thing again. And because he had that restraining order, she would end up going to jail. She would get locked up. He would call the police on her.
wow,
This happened with her 5 times, Amora.
and
Five
she
times.
He had her locked up 5 times.
5 times he did that to her, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get her out of that relationship. She had to
mhm,
want to leave on her own. He was military, and I don't know if
okay,
he was, what do you call it, shell shocked or what. I don't know what you would call it.
PTSD or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. And he would do things like, if she came in the house late. I remember one time he had a shotgun connected to the door, so he had a string. So if she opened the door, the shotgun would go off. It just
Oh
so
my
happened that it didn't go off. Those are the type of things that he would do.
oh, wow.
Um, yeah, he would lock her out of the house. She would be outside of the house. Um, of course, she had my little grandbaby, so that would be her and my grandbaby dealing with that. And she would come with me for a while, but then she would just go back. And then at one point, I actually got her away from there, got her own apartment or whatever, and she left and went back. She moved out of the state and down south with him.
Mhm,
They were living together for a while, but while they were down south and I was up north, she went through hell. She was going through things that I didn't know about. She tried to hide it from me because she didn't want me, I guess, to try to make her leave that relationship.
mhm.
So she went through things. I found out that, there was um substance abuse and everything. And
Her?
she from from her. I don't know if he was or not, but I know it was from her. And I think, from what I understand from her therapist, because at one point I did get her in therapy, that it was a coping mechanism for her.
Okay.
So um, she continued in the relationship with him. I kind of helped her, got her clean, got her together,
Mhm.
and she went back to him.
Wow. How long did she stay clean?
For as far as I know, she was clean up until, um, I guess, right before the tragedy happened.
Okay.
Um, so moving forward with that, they moved closer to where I am. Um, and so I was able to see my granddaughter every day, and my granddaughter and I became close. Her and I became closer. But
Mhm,
I did notice that the abuse was still there with her. By this time, he had started to get sick. He had diabetes really bad, and so he ended up being on dialysis and stuff. And she was taking care of him. making sure he made it to dialysis. Um, pretty much her role became her being his caretaker
Wow,
in
because
the
of the
meantime,
age
because of,
and because he was sick. The age difference
yes,
and he took the pill. Okay.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
So, but he was still abusive. Like she would make his plate and he would talk trash about the food. He was still abusive.
Wow, even though
Um,
he needed her.
yeah, even though he needed her and she took good care of him. Now,
Mhm,
his family never liked the fact that she was with him. Of course, he had children her age. So they
mhm,
never liked her because of that. And they would often ridicule her and, you know, bash her, um, criticize her. They would try to break their relationship up. I didn't want them together either, but they would say cruel things. She was just using him for this, that, or the other. So it
mhm,
over the years took a toll on her.
I can imagine.
I can remember towards the end, she she would say to me that she was just so tired, but she didn't want to leave him because he was sick.
oh, wow.
And that was during the time that I think maybe she started using uh, drugs again. I think that's when she started back with the substance abuse. Now, in the meantime, I had gotten her a job, and she was doing really well. My youngest was there with her, with my granddaughter, a lot because they were sisters. She was there with her sister, and
Mhm,
with my granddaughter. She I had gotten her a job. She was doing
mhm,
really well, Amora.
mhm.
Um, from what I could see. I mean, she didn't tell me everything and I didn't know that until after, the tragedy. But yeah, she was just still dealing with things with him.
Okay.
On New Year's Eve, my youngest daughter and I, and my youngest daughter had been staying there, but she come home, sometimes for a break because she was watching the children for my daughter to work.
Mhm,
She'd come home for New Year's Eve, and her and I went to church. My youngest daughter and I. So we went to church, and my daughter, and her name is Brittany. My
okay.
daughter, she did a video while we were in church. We were at the midnight service. She did a video while we were in there, and they were jumping around and having them a good time. Her and my granddaughter and another little baby there. They were
Mhm,
jumping around, having a good time, bringing the new year in. She sent Diamond a video of them jumping around, saying Happy New Year.
mhm,
Right. I
mhm,
stayed in church all night. We stayed in church late. That was a long service. And afterwards, we went out to eat with the pastor and his wife, and we were out there until about 6 o'clock in the morning.
mhm,
Um, and so I went home after that, and we went to bed, of course. So around 9 something, she called me, and when she called me, I was tired. I said, "Listen, I'm tired. I can't get up. I don't. And, I didn't. I told her I would talk to her, when I woke up or when I got up.
mhm.
An hour later, Amora, the tragedy happened where she had unalived him, my granddaughter, and another, and her niece.
So your daughter did this.
Yes,
Were
yes.
they were they in a physical altercation? Like, what would
I don't know. I kind of think she just blacked out, but more than likely, I do know that at that time she was taking a lot of ridicule and criticism from his family.
Mhm,
Um, and they were always wanting things from him. They felt like she was stopping them from getting it. So, and then she was taking the abuse from him. He was very abusive, very, very abusive to her. I
wow.
don't know what happened that morning. It's still a mystery to us. We don't know what happened,
Mm,
Amora, but
mhm.
it happened. And when it happened, of course, she has siblings. She has me, and it kind of ripped our family apart. Only
Wow.
because we were all traumatized by it. Of course, anybody would.
Mhm,
The one thing I want to say in all of this, Amora, is that God kept me together.
Mhm.
God kept me together, Amora.
I can
The
only
stress that I went through, oh my God, it was unimaginable. The first year, Amora, I couldn't accept the fact that it had happened
Mhm.
that first year. Um, and then the second year is when it kicked in. This was 2022, and I had to deal with the reality that I had lost four people out of my life in one day, three unalived, and one is gone away for the rest of her life.
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
No, it's not good, Amora. I mean, it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my family. However, we are a family of survivors.
Mhm.
We are a family of survivors. My daughters had to cope with the fact that their sister was gone and their niece was gone. And it was challenging for all of us to get ourselves back on track. And we went through not trusting each other. We were afraid of each other. We didn't trust, we thought, hey, it traumatized us.
Right.
Um, the one thing that I can say is that prayer and just allowing ourselves to embrace this thing in a way that said, this is what happened to us, but we are still here.
Right. Wow.
Um,
Whew.
yeah, it was a horrible situation.
Yeah.
So when I saw some of the things happening in Brianna's relationship, and a lot of people will be cruel and say it's trauma bonding. It wasn't. I think that God allows things to happen to you in your life so you can be a strength to someone else.
Mhm.
And I didn't ask for this. I live in a totally different state than she does. The
Mhm.
connection to her, to me, was God saying, this thing that has happened to you, this strength that I have built in you because of your trauma, you can pass on to someone else.
Right.
The Bible says that we are saved by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. It was my testimony that, drew me to her situation. Now, I'm not saying that is as tragic as mine, but I can
Mm.
tell you this bullying that everybody is doing, everybody ganging up on this girl will could possibly make her reach her breaking point. And everybody's so selfish as to win an argument, to win a battle, that they're not even thinking about the fact that these people could possibly, and I'm not saying that it will. I honestly don't believe that Brianna's
Right.
in the headspace that that would happen, but it could. And if you could bully this person like this, and even though she's strong enough to make it through it, you that bullying that they do can be easily transferred to other people. Look how it's happening. We're all getting bullied on that panel. We're all going back and forth on that panel. And that is why I feel like it needs to stop. It can
Yes.
happen to any one of us on that panel. Any one of us is being bullied. Any one
Right.
of us is doing the bullying to somebody. This could be a tragedy in somebody's life if they reach a breaking point.
Who actually do. They snap.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Yeah.
what happened with your daughter. She snapped.
She snapped. She
And
snapped. And Amora, but she was by means no weak-minded person. She was actually strong-minded, strong-willed,
mhm.
you know? And this happened. So these people getting on these panels and they want to bully people and they want to go back and forth and they want to hurt people because they can. Those things that they're doing are detrimental to another person's lives, and they
Right.
don't care. They
It
don't care. I guarantee you they can hear the story and continue to bullying because they don't care. For some reason, they have in their mind that somebody is deserving of the punishment that they had for them for doing something to someone else. If Brianna is in violation of Robert, then Robert handle it. These people are on that panel. I mean, as if she is in direct violation of them.
of them, yes. I've even heard, yeah. I mean, I don't want to make this I don't want to take the light off of your
Right.
experience,
Hmm.
but I have heard that, some people say that they need a victory. They
Yeah.
need victory,
Yes.
you know?
Yes,
Uh,
and it's almost like they're wishing that on her. You can't. You know what I did? I had some of my family members go and look at their side. I had them come and look at our side. Pretty much, and let me be perfectly honest, they didn't know
mhm,
what was going on. When they went over there on Amber's page and Retta's page and all these, they knew that something was going on, but they couldn't make heads or tails of the story.
mhm,
It looked like they were bashing someone. It looked like they were being mean to someone. That's why I've been on the backside. Like when it became serious, when I saw that it was serious, when I said, "Where's the resolve in this?" and I saw that they didn't want to resolve, and I saw where it was getting too hurtful, I fell back.
right,
I fell back from that. So that's why you don't see me. That's why you didn't see me in the comments. That's why you didn't see me doing a lot of stuff. My objective was to support her, and that's what you guys saw me doing. I didn't like to be on the camera. I didn't want to go to her house and be on the camera. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I was
right,
strictly supporting her.
right,
It all becomes null and void when you have somebody infiltrate that and destroy what you're trying to hopefully build. And now look, I was that in not just Brianna's life, but other people's lives. And somehow it's turned into something nasty now.
right.
These girls meant something to me. Ashley meant something to me. She meant a lot to me.
Mhm. I
I
understand.
didn't I used to tell you that. I told everybody that. There was a time I refused to speak on her negatively because she meant that much to me. It
Right.
hurt me that she would go back and all these intimate things, these discussions that I've had with her, these telling her the intimate details of my life, this story being one of them, and she
Mm,
go back and she spread that to other people, and she makes a mockery of it and thinks that it's funny when I've never done that to her, and I know stories about her that I will never tell.
right.
I know
Well, I'm
things
gonna
about her intimately that I would never tell.
mhm. And does she know that your daughter was bullied and harassed and by, her boyfriend's family?
I didn't. I don't. I think we did have that conversation. Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about a lot. The fact that Amora, I didn't. Somebody I love hurt somebody I love.
Right.
And how do you find the justice in that? How do I support her without getting justice for my granddaughter? How do I support how do I, say, okay, it's all about my granddaughter and leave my daughter? It was a hard situation for me.
It sounds like it. It would be hard for anybody, I would assume.
Yeah.
That's a tough
And then
decision.
you don't want to put your story out there because people are so cruel as to say you're deserving of it. That's why this and that's why that. They don't understand that this is real life and it can happen to any of us. And when this happened and I became an advocate for certain groups, Amora, I saw it was happening more often than I thought. When that happened, it was like a domino effect for the first month, a
Mhm.
story after story. The day after it happened and we all went to sit down and eat and kind of figure out what we were going to do. Um it was a person in that restaurant that had just experienced the same thing.
Oh, wow.
So yes, this could happen to anyone. It can
Mhm.
happen to it didn't happen yet.
Well, it looked like we lost Denise. I'm gonna see if I can get her back. I'm gonna give it a minute to see if I can get her back. If not, I wanna thank Miss Denise for coming up and sharing her story. Okay, here she goes.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. It went out.
No worries. Yeah, it beeped out for a little bit. All right, but
Yeah.
I got you back. I mean, it sounds like your daughter had so much stressors on her, and maybe she just didn't know at the time where to turn. She probably had a
Yeah.
lot of weight on her shoulders. And you said
Hmm.
she was how old when this happened?
She was 29. She was turning 30 the next day.
Oh, the next day. And you know what? We need to definitely tune in to our young folks. They're not built like we are. You know what I mean? They're not built like we're older. We're able to deal with a little bit more. Our young people these days are very fragile.
They
So
are.
yeah, I don't think they're built, like we are because they were a little bit coddled.
That's why I kind of took to these girls. And I had genuine, honest relationships with them.
Hmm.
This story is bringing the worst out of people
It
because
is.
we're all trying to prove a point. The point that we're trying to prove is unnecessary.
Right.
I wouldn't care if Brianna made a mistake. At this point, it doesn't matter if Robert made a mistake. What matters, I mean, at this point, is making peace. We're
Right.
actually making war,
Right.
all of us.
Right.
So, I mean, will I defend myself? Absolutely. Did I participate in this? Absolutely. But now, I'm starting to see it wasn't until I went back to this story and why I started supporting Brianna in the beginning that I felt like, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. And at this point, I don't care how cruel somebody else is on the other side. They like drama. This is all about money for them. I don't need the money bad enough that I would continue to do this and hurt people just for the sake of my own personal gain. They are capitalizing off of her for personal gain. And you've heard them say it. I've heard them say it. They're looking for they're on those panels trying for views for their own personal gain. At the
Right.
same time, this young lady is suffering. I've seen her behind the scenes suffering, trying to keep her kids together, and every little thing she does, they criticize her about. It's
Everything.
unfair. It's
Every,
unfair.
and
They
for some reason they think she deserves it.
exactly. She does not deserve it. I can't think of anybody that deserves to be treated that way. For the greater good, let's make peace and then move on.
Right. We've been trying to call it quits for a while,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
get sucked back in it, sucked back in it, sucked back in it. But
Yes.
all we want is just for people to just stop breaking down every aspect of her life. Let the young lady live. Let her co-parent, take care of her children.
She is begging for them to stop and leave her alone. She's begging for that. She said,
Yeah.
please just leave me alone. And you know what they did? They went even harder on her. They want to destroy her. The heart of the wicked is what's
Yeah.
being displayed. It's like they want to see her destroyed so bad that
Yes.
they would continue. And it's not, you know what? No, I don't believe that that's the heart that a lot of these people have. I believe they do it because of monetary gain. I think
Yeah.
they do it for monetary gain. Money.
Well, I
The
don't.
love of money is the root of all evil. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, because the supporters, I think the supporters want to hear more about it because the supporters are going where the story is at. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I've
Yeah.
seen some of the content creators try to move around and talk about something else. The supporters
Hmm.
are not interested.
Right. Right. I mean, if it means anything to anybody to be able to look at this, make us an assessment, listen to her when she's asking them to stop. She's crying and pouring her heart out to them for them to stop.
Yes, but then you have the soon to be ex spouse telling them to keep going.
Yeah.
He's
Because,
loving it,
well, that's when people have to make their own decision.
right? Because he knows what it's doing to her,
We have to pay for our own sins.
right?
We have to pay for our own selves. We are held responsible for our own sins.
Right. Understood.
This has consumed a lot of my time, and
Right.
I'm just not interested in continuing it. When somebody comes in here and they're saying, hey, I need to get out to work, and I done spent all day worried about something that benefits me nothing, you know?
Right. No, totally.
Yeah.
It's definitely time consuming. It's a lot of work to
Oh yeah.
work, a lot of back and forth. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yes, it's definitely.
Yeah.
I think it has taken a lot of people's attention, and that's why they're
Hmm.
so drawn to it. And it's almost like a show that they're like, oh, let me go, let me, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. Let me see,
Mhm.
as the world turn, let me see what happened next. Let me see what happened next. But this is real life. This ain't no fake nothing. This is actually happening for real to a young lady that just want to live, just want to breathe, just want to take care of her beautiful children. That's it. That's all. She want to just move on with her life. That's it.
And honestly, Amora, that's all she wants. Everybody has issues and problems. Everybody's trying to feel their way through life,
Exactly.
you
Everybody.
know?
No one is definitely exempt from issues,
Yeah.
problems,
And you,
trying times. That's what I call them. Trying times. You're gonna
yeah.
have trying times in your life. You just got to know how to work through
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. And do I like to make my funnies? Yeah, I like to be funny. I like to have fun. Everybody knows that that's my personality. I feel like I'm losing that with this mess.
Yeah. Well, it's coming to an end. I mean, at this point, what else do they have like to say about her except for I don't know the way she cooked eggs. I don't know the way she uh blink her eye. Maybe I'm not sure. We'll see, huh? We'll just have to see. But hopefully, they'll just let the young lady, God's child, one of God's children, just
Hmm.
breathe. Like, come on, y'all, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
know. I know some other young ladies that was bullied on social media like this, and somebody else said they was bullied for 7 years.
I was in an advocate group and mentored, or I guess I would say mentored. I don't know. She was one of the people in the group that had lost her daughter to that. And
Hmm.
this lady wasn't as fortunate as me, and she totally lost it, Amora.
Hmm.
She totally lost it behind this. And I was in a group with another woman who she was in her backyard having a birthday party for her son. She had two sons. She was in the backyard having a birthday party for him. The neighbor um didn't like the noise from the birthday party and took
Hmm.
his gun and shot over there and killed her son while he was on her lap.
Wow.
And this woman totally ignored the second son, and she went and was asleep on this young man's grave and stuff. She lost it. That's why I said, well, I thank God that I'm clothed in my right mind and I'm able to speak about the tragedy I've experienced and help others. I am grateful. I've seen the worst side of this. And then the people who were getting bullied, actually seen where someone who was being mentored. I didn't see them for about a week, and come to find out they've taken it. They took their life. So this is serious. This bullying stuff is serious.
It is.
Thank you so much, Amora, for taking the time this morning to allow me to tell my story on your panel. I really appreciate that.
You are so welcome, Miss Denise. And thank you. And I will talk to you soon.